Today I'm talking to the wonderful Philippa Reid, who has so much knowledge and experience of the quilling world. In the interview we talk about all things quill jewellery and does it really matter if you get caught in the rain? And as a committee member of the UK Quilling Guild and editor of the magazine they publish, she gives us an insight into what that involves and what they can offer you as a member. Philippa's also written a fabulous book of quilling techniques, which has so much good stuff in it. So we have a chat about that and how that came to be. So pop the kettle on, settle back with a brew and enjoy this chat all about our favourite craft. Okay, hello Philippa and welcome. Thank you so much for talking to me this morning.
It's my pleasure.
So there are so many things I want to talk to you about today, but let's start at the beginning. How long have you been quilling? How did it start? Was it someone or something that inspired you?
Well, I suppose it's getting on for 20 years ago now. And I was at that stage in my career when I was beginning to step back from full-time work. I was actually a freelance writer working in marketing, which is quite a high pressure kind of environment.
Yeah,
and I was beginning to feel a bit burned out and just wanting to back away from it a bit with getting older. And having all those years worked with words creatively, I was sort of acting as a mouthpiece for other people. I thought, let's try and go more in a visual direction. And I started off on the basic paper crafting route, like probably we all do. You know, I started dabbling with making cards and bits and pieces. And I bought a book on a whole variety of card making techniques, and it had different chapters on different things, and it had one chapter on quilling, and I'd never seen it before. And I was immediately captivated by it with the examples that they gave. I can remember that there were the inevitable flowers and butterflies, but little ballerinas and things. I thought, wow, this is so unusual, and it just sort of captured my imagination. But it was only a couple of years later when I joined the Quilling Guild and started mixing with more experienced quillers and learning from the experts face to face that I really started to master the techniques and explore it more deeply. And it's gone on from there, really. And then I took over as an editor of the Guild's seasonal magazine, which was an amazing break for me because I was able to bring my former writing skills into the world of quilling, which I found so magical. So it's a nice combination, shall we say.
Interesting, isn't it? Because there are so many people just discovering quilling at the moment. And thinking it's a new thing. But it's really not, is it? It's been around for a long time.
That's right. And the history is very fascinating.
Yeah. But there was a time where it was it almost disappeared, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the last big resurgence that I know about was in Victorian times, where you've probably heard about the Mosaicon kit, where it was actually advertised by an entrepreneur as a pastime for young ladies, you know. And then I think in the early 20th century, that was in Victorian times. So the turn of the 20th century, knowledge of it started to dwindle a bit. And I think in the 60s and 70s, it hung on a bit in America, but it wasn't high profile at all. It seems to have been more in the latter half of the 20th century and into the internet age that it's really come back to the fore again. And the internet's made it so much easier for people to discover it.
Tell us a bit more about the Quilling Guild, because we're so lucky to have a UK Quilling Guild, aren't we? You know, it's something.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I think there's so much to say about the Guild. I mean, we're based in the UK, but it is very much an international organisation. We do have members right across the world. What a lot of people don't realise is that the Guild it's actually a registered charity, and it's run entirely by volunteers. You know, it's not just a group of people in a big office block. We're scattered all around the country, and we're all doing the best we can to promote quilling. The Guild exists really, yes, to promote quilling, to create awareness of it, but also to uphold standards of good quilling and not to let the old techniques die.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that we're talking about the late 20th century and up to the present day, I think the emphasis has very much been on the closed loose coil, which is pinched into teardrops and heart shapes and those sorts of things. And that is seen as almost the mainstay, the main building block of quilling. But actually, there's so much more out there, so many more techniques which are in danger perhaps of being lost.
As well, at the moment, there is a huge trend and move towards on-edge quilling.
Yes, indeed.
And again, that can be really effective, but it's also very different. I actually find the more traditional styles of quilling, that's what's really therapeutic for me. That's what I really particularly enjoy. Whereas I know lots of people say to me that the on edge looks good, but it's tricky and not so fun to do. So by looking at all these techniques, and they can there's a Quilling Guild website, isn't there, where people can get more information?
There is indeed, yes, yes. And the other important thing to say about the Guild is really that it's open to everyone. You don't have to be an accomplished quiller in order to join the Guild. I'm a great believer in creativity comes out of mastery of technique. When you've learned how to do a thing, you think, oh, I could do this, or I could do that, or I could try something different. And that's where the evolution comes. And I think we're seeing it now, perhaps towards the on-edge style of quilling, away from the dominance of the closed loose coil. Because when you look at on-edge work, you very seldom see the pinched loose coil teardrops and other shapes. It's open coils and lines in isolation, and it is a different style.
Also, in addition, you've created a business out of it, haven't you? Can you tell us more about that?
A business seems to have found its way to me, let's say. I never set out to make a business out of making quilled jewellery, but it just kind of happened. I can tell you the story if you like. I mean,
please.
I came up from card making into doing framed pieces. After I'd done my accreditations, I felt a bit more free to do anything I wanted. So I moved into paper collages with quilling as an element within those collages. At that time, so this is rewinding 5 or 6 years probably, I belonged to a creatives group in Taunton, near where I live in Somerset, which pre-COVID used to organise an annual arts festival. And one of the wonderful things about the festival was they had a scheme called Adopt an Artist, where the festival would go on for a month. And for that month, local businesses would be invited to adopt an artist and host their work and put it on display. And I was lucky enough to have some of my framed pieces in Taunton Minster, which is a really beautiful church, lovely setting. And I was well pleased with that. And out of the blue, the organiser of the festival, who knew that I tinkered around making paper beads and very simple bits of jewellery, they said, oh, how would you like to be adopted also by a jewellery shop? Okay, that's So in Taunton, the shop's not there now, sadly, it's been taken over, but it was a high-end contemporary jewellery shop, and they offered me this opportunity. And they had a big shop window with a tiny little window next to it, and they offered me the tiny little window to display quill pieces. And what I was doing in those days was really very simplistic, and I used to play around making paper beads from magazine pages and things, which I still do to some extent, but I've developed it a bit. Anyway, I set up a display of my quill pieces in this little window, and in the course of the month, quite a few of them sold. In fact, every time I popped into the shop, they pressed money into my hand. Oh, you sold another of your pieces. There was no commission or anything involved. It was such a fabulous opportunity. And at the end of the month, I went back to collect the display again, and the owner of the business approached me and said, would I be interested possibly in having them stock some of my pieces on an ongoing basis? I think what they saw is largely they dealt in silver and gold pieces, but of course with paper being the first wedding anniversary is your paper anniversary, and I think they saw it as a gifting idea if you could sell paper jewellery. So I said, well, yeah. What we were really intrigued with was the possibilities of the silver and gold edged quilling strips, and how you could produce earrings and pendants which really had the appearance of the precious metals. Absolutely. But actually they're made from paper, they weigh nothing, you can make big earrings that don't weigh your earlobes down. Plus they were ideal for the paper wedding anniversary. And they encouraged me to really develop the collection that I have today. In fact, that was what opened the doors to the rest of my outlets, because I then very soon got another amazing outlet in Taunton where they only sell the work of Somerset-based makers. And I've been extremely successful in there, and I've gone on to get, I think I've now got 7 retail outlets.
Wow.
For jewellery, and I still can't believe it. I'm pinching myself.
Now, I've noticed if I'm wearing quilled jewellery, or if I have some on display when I'm out and about, the first thing people will say, well, no, they say, wow, that's amazing. Is that paper? Because of everything else I'm doing. Yes, it's still paper. And like you were saying, the gilded edge papers, when it looks metallic. And then when they are convinced it is paper and they're sure of that, the first thing they say to me after that is, what if you get wet?
Yes, I know. I dread that question. You have to get over that objection almost every time. I discovered an amazing combined glue varnish, which I use, and I actually, all of my pieces are coated. I use a tiny little eyeshadow brush, and I coat every surface, every edge with this glue varnish. And it doesn't diminish the gilding in any way, fortunately. It really toughens the pieces up so that they're solid. I like to describe it a bit like balsa wood. It's like this is a quill piece. I like to make things solid rather than lots of open coils, because obviously they are a bit movable. But once coated with this glue varnish, honestly, you can dip them in water. In fact, I made a video the other day, you might have seen it online. I thought, right, I'm actually going to prove this, holding an earring under a running tap for several minutes. And it's absolutely fun. I've got the piece on my desk upstairs, but it's just getting people over that disbelief. They think anything's going to unravel in the rain.
I also want to talk about your book as well, which I have a copy of here.
Oh yes, that's
my
great.
Copy of.
Right.
And this is for sale in the Quirky Quillers online shop.
Special signed copies, I think.
Yeah, signed copies, remember, folks. But yeah, so I mean, this is just an absolute treasure trove of techniques. And there's, I mean,
don't, because I'm quite an experienced quiller now, but there is still plenty in there for me to learn as well. And it's just for people at any stage, I would say, but especially useful for those starting out and seeing a particular technique and wondering how it's done. It's no doubt it's going to be in here. So tell us a bit about your book and how it came about, because it's so different. I've got a large collection. Nobody will be surprised at that. I've got a large collection of quilling books, probably
Haven't we all?
most of them. And this is so different to all the others because generally you get lots of step-by-step projects to follow, which is lovely, but this is a real kind of Bible of techniques. So
Yes, it was
tell us
written.
why you went down that route as well.
Well, again, it fell out of the sky and found me really one day out of the blue. I received an email from the publisher, Prowood Press, and I think they'd done a bit of research. They publish a whole range of practical how-to books, everything from looking after horses to bookbinding to building model railways, you name it, they've got a book on it, and they wanted to add quilling to that library. And I think they had researched online, and because they saw that I'm a quilling writer and that I produce the Quilling Guild's magazine, they thought perhaps I was a likely candidate to produce a book. And so, yeah, they emailed me out of the blue and said, we don't want a project book. We want a practical how-to textbook. And to be honest, if ever I was going to write a book on quilling, that is the only book I would have written, because I'm not really a patterns and projects person. I'm a learn a technique, see the potential, go off and see what you can do with it. You know, you're going to put yourself under a lot of pressure, but I couldn't walk away from it because I knew it was right up my street. So I said yes, and they gave me quite a generous deadline to get it done. And I found that once I got started, it all just fell out of my head. Everything that I knew or had ever learned about quilling. And I tried to, with my Quilling Guild connections and the fact that I have learned some of the more obscure techniques from Quilling Guild members, I was able to bring those in. So I wanted it to go so much further than your average craft book, which it even contains a technique which I developed myself really, which is quilled tracery, which I was inspired by looking at architecture in church buildings and you know, arches and trefoils and things, and I realized you could do that by making glued ring coils and cutting up the ring coils and putting them together in formation. So I included a little bit of myself in there as well. When I wrote it, I also had in mind not just existing quillers and crafters, but I also wanted it to be useful to mixed media artists, you know, the sort of people that I might mix with at Creatives Club who could perhaps look at incorporating a little bit of quilling within their work and take it in their own direction. So, you know, I find the world of crafting a bit narrow. I like to broaden the whole thing out a bit.
Yeah, I love that when people in the Quirky Quillers collective, they might kind of introduce quilling to something that they have already done previously and mix the two together. It's just brilliant. I love anything like that.
Totally. It's exciting to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a labour of love for me. It's been a part of my life for over 10 years now. I've been
Really?
editing the magazine, and I still regard it as an enormous privilege to carry it forward, because the magazine's been going since the Guild was first created back in 1980 something, 83 I think it was.
Yeah.
I kind of live and breathe it all the time. I work on it all the time, because if I were to do it in a big hit that would be a pressure. So
Yeah.
you know, 3 issues a year. I'm constantly working on the next one. And I try and keep my ear to the ground via social media as to what Quilling Guild members are producing. And if I see someone posting a really interesting project, I will get in touch with them and say, hey, tell me about your particular piece. Tell me how you made it. Tell me about the challenges. As for me, it's not just about the pictures, because I'm a words person. I think it's important to be able to explain to readers what was involved, some of the thought processes, what were the difficult bits, you know, because we've all been there, and perhaps how one person solved a particular problem could be of benefit to somebody reading the article. What I absolutely love is if Quilling Guild members take the initiative off their own bat to send me something that they think might be worthy of featuring. Most of them tend to be rather shy and not very, very forthcoming in that area. So I do have to seek people out, but I'm always more than happy for people to send me things, even if they haven't been quilling very long. A lot of our readers are also beginners, and it's so reassuring to, you know, read something, oh, this lady's only been quilling 6 months, she managed to do that, or she discovered this or that, tips, tricks, that kind of thing.
I'm often saying that to people because we have our monthly challenges, and we want people of all levels to be involved in showcasing what they do, because you can't compare what stage you're at with somebody else, and it all deserves celebrating, doesn't it? And it's not a lesser thing if you're a beginner quiller. It's still something special and fabulous, and deserves being shown out there. There's this tendency to be so modest, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, we're all our own worst critics, aren't we?
Absolutely.
People, you know, the most wonderful thing about quilling is its visual wow factor. Even to the untrained eye, a really bad piece of quilling still has that wow factor, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it looks so intricate and people don't know how you've done it. So they're really impressed. So even the simplest flower, it can be special. And what excites me always is how anyone puts something of themselves into their quilling. It's like you could sit in a workshop and all be working on the same basic project. And at the end of the session, when they hold up what they've done, they're all so different. You must notice this.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is.
The same techniques, the same materials, the same pattern even, and it's still, there is something of you in what you've done.
Yeah, there's a kind of X factor.
And maybe we should mention the fact that there is a yearly get-together for the Quilling Guild as well, because that can be something really special. You know, we've said that we wish we lived closer and we could meet in person more easily, but this is, you know, a special weekend once a year that maybe people might like to come and meet with other quillers.
Absolutely, because it really does, it brings all the aspects together. We have a display of people's work. We have competitions for those that are competitively minded. Not everybody is, but it's fun to do. We have members demonstrating throughout the day. We try and make it quite a relaxed social occasion, so that, because for many of us, that one day or weekend a year, it's the only time we get together with certain quilling friends. So it's like a big reunion, and it's a very supportive, fun environment. It's absolutely the high spot of the quilling calendar, I think, and more people should know about it.
Yeah.
In fact, last year it was our 40th anniversary celebration, and we actually had a special dinner in the evening, and we stayed on late. Just magic. So yeah, if you join the guild for that reason alone, it's worth it. But I like to think the magazine is quite special too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 3 times a year you get full colour 44-page magazine, and it's packed with inspiration. You know, we always have a few patterns and projects. We always have features, we have news, we have details of competitions. Oh, and throughout the year, the Guild also run online competitions as well. So I think we have about 4 of those each year with a topic, a bit like the Quirky Quillers with your challenges. We set a topic, and that's another opportunity for people to participate. So
Yes, there's so much there to get involved in, isn't there? So, and I will be there. I will definitely be there this year.
that's
It'll be,
fantastic.
it'll be my first time coming to the get together, but I'm really excited. So hopefully we'll get more of the Quirky Quillers joining up and coming along as well.
That would be amazing, because we're open to everyone. As I say, you don't have to pass the accreditation to be a Guild member. You can do that if you want to, but it's for all quillers everywhere.
Thank you so much for watching, and huge thanks to Philippa, of course, for taking the time to talk to me. Do make sure you check out Philippa's website and Instagram page. You'll find all the links to things we mentioned during our chat in the details below. There are a limited number of special signed copies of Philippa's book in the Quirky Quillers online shop right now, and of course it's available from all good bookshops too. Now, becoming a member of the Quilling Guild is a wonderful way to show our love and support for this fabulous craft and help spread the word to more people. So I really hope you join us, and hopefully I'll see you at the Quilling Guild meetup this year too. See you soon. Bye for now.